there were flashes of the Kamala that I know, who is really a true public servant. She really does work for real people. And in the back of her mind, she is trying to figure out, how do I solve the problem? She sometimes skips, even in person, she'll sometimes skip the human part and get to the problem-solving part. But there were flashes of it. And I think the question, if you're at home trying to figure this out, you can ask, well, could she have done this? Could she have done this better? Your job isn't to do town halls. Your job is to fight for people. Does she seem like somebody who is going to take seriously the problems of ordinary people and try to get an answer? And I think she passed that test. I think that the word salad stuff gets on my nerves. I think that some of the evasions are not necessary. But when she's talking about trying to get you a house, I believe her. When she starts, like, I'm trying to get you to help for your mama who's sick, I believe her. When she's talking about, I'm going to do what I can to bring prices down, I may not agree with those tools, but I believe she's going to try to apply them. And so I believe this is somebody who actually cares about people. And I think that she passed that test tonight. So, on how she did it and some of that stuff got on my nerves. But I believe that she is going to fight for the American people.
But you described it as flashes. But then your follow-up seemed like a much more of a brighter endorsement.
I'm saying that there were flashes of the person, I didn't get a chance to say it because I got interrupted. There were flashes of the person that I know. There are flashes of the person I know that I've seen as a district attorney at the grassroots level in San Francisco, fighting for regular people, giving young people an opportunity. So one of those young people, by the way, is going to Congress. I know this woman, and there were flashes of that. And then some other stuff, it got lost in the sauce.
I think Republicans would take another hour of Kamala Harris. We'd just press play, let her keep going. We'd pay for another hour to let her keep non-answering the questions. I think Anderson's asking her, well, why haven't you done it? You've been there for 4 years. Why have you done any of this? And the word salad answer she gave to that was just mind-boggling. I mean, it's blown up the internet, her answer to that question. I think the things that are troubling for people were her responses to, Van said about what's she going to do to reduce costs when they asked her at the beginning. We're hurting economically. She said, I'm going to prosecute corporations. Right? That's not going to lower costs. How are you going to make things better for me? I'm going to prosecute people. Trump bad is not a message that's going to get her elected. Trump bad message. I disagree with you, Alyssa. There. I don't think it's going to happen.
You're referring to the fact that she kept bringing up the Hitler and Atlantic
you have to bring something else. Say, was she for a wall or was she against a wall? I couldn't tell from her answer. Right? Anderson kept asking her, well, listen. You laughed at the wall, but now it's in your plan. Are you for it or against it? There was so much mishmash in there. I don't know what was going on. I think it's very generous to say that she showed up, right? I think the key, if she loses here in this race, people are going to look back and her team is going to say, we should have been doing this from the very get-go because reps make you better, right? And the more you do this, the better you get. She's still not at it. We're 13 days out from an election, and everyone's hoping she's going to get better. The Wall Street Journal just came out with a poll while this was going on. She's losing altitude rapidly. Rapidly.
If you believe that, Paul.
Van, but okay, when Alyssa, you had the conversation, you and Sonny, and she said she wouldn't do anything differently than Biden. Okay, every interview she's done since has asked that very question. It's a very basic one. It got asked again tonight. And the answer was, there was still not an answer to it. It didn't really feel.
Well, I think that the answer is she's talking about how she is different. And she talks about her biography in a way that I think does relate. I wish she would say, look, we did this and it didn't work. I would do this again. I'd like those kind of answers better. I'm not sure this is a media environment that wouldn't punish those answers. I think so. But what she does lean into is the things in her biography that are different, not only from Biden, but from Trump and, frankly, anybody else. I don't know anybody else who's run for president who had to help their mom in the very intimate ways that she had to.
You said some things that I think are really important. She hits the right notes on the economy, and sometimes she does it well. Sometimes, and I've said this before, when she's talking about abortion rights or when she's talking about the framework of our democracy and so on, she's passionate and persuasive. When she talks about some of these economic issues, it sounds a little like she right language, but from Berlitz. And, it would be really valuable to insert human beings into the stories. into the answers.
And when she does it, it's powerful.
Well, and I do think coming to a Republican ad near you will be the court packing answer, because it was a non-answer to something that's a very specific question, and that is something that to Republicans is
it's
a
also
very
ending the filibuster. She said.
She said looking at
She was looking at it.
She looks at stuff. She studies stuff. Donald Trump says he's going to be a dictator, and you're
He's going
worried
to
about
eliminate income tax.
Ending a filibuster is a big deal.
But she didn't say she was going to. She said she'd look at it. She's studying things.
I love how everyone can see what goes on here during it, because this fight's been going on the whole time.
Your point was well taken, right? If you're going to be different than Biden, and if your message is turn the page, right? We're turning the page. Like, you got to give some specific answers how you're going to turn the page.
There are a lot of Americans who want to turn the page on the kind of craziness that we've seen from Donald Trump. This kind of incessant divisiveness and focus on his political enemies instead of on the problems of the American people.
I know, but
when she said, I just want to repeat this again, I would love to hear this 100 times between now and Election Day. He's got an enemies list. I've got a to-do list. I think this is
you're a better campaigner than she is. They need you.
Wall Street Journal just said who is going to bring needed change in the sub of this poll. 40% her, 47 or 49. I can't read my number here for him, but you get the point, though.
Look, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are not taking the same exam.
Yeah.
And I think it bothers people. They're not taking the same exam. He gets to be lawless. She has to be flawless. That's what's unfair. That's what's unfair. That's what's unfair tonight. That's what's unfair tonight. They're not taking the same exam. Look, she has policies. She may not articulate them perfectly every time. She may not put the stories in the right places, but she's fighting for actual ideas that will help real people. And he's talking about people's penises. And so they're not taking the same exam, and that's pissing people off. It's pissing me off.
Well, and I'm also old enough to remember that if your fiscal plans were actually said to bankrupt the Social Security Trust Fund in sooner years, Donald Trump's, that would be a campaign-destroying issue. But we just gloss over things with Donald Trump. There's so much that's thrown at us, we just don't even digest
I would just say this.
Okay.
People must have such, they don't believe her. Obviously, they just don't believe her at all, because if they did, Van, she'd be soaring in the polls.
they're unfavorables
In the Wall Street Journal poll that just came out are higher than his.
Her favorables are.
Okay.
By the way, nobody believes Trump.
Yeah, her unfavorables are higher.